So for the last couple of weeks, whenever my good friend Cody has time to come up and help me work on the bump side, he's been helping me work through the engine harness to make sure that we build this harness in a way where it's actually going to hold up to the demand of the glow plugs. We haven't got all the indicator lights figured out just yet, but we do have this truck now running on its own harness. Well, dogs, you're going to run off, and I'm going to try and get the excavator started. Well, the excavator started, but clearly she's not too happy, and it looks like the diesel might be frozen up too. It has been so cold up here this year at Red Poppy Ranch that when I went to grab the throttle in my excavator, it was actually frozen as well. It can be hard on the equipment to try and start it on days like today, but using a little bit of diesel clean just to make sure we don't have any diesel start gelling up in the excavator. And now that it's running and it's getting warm, I should be able to take it up the side of the mountain and open up the mountainside trail so I can get access to the places that I need to before winter's over. Every time I start my equipment, I check the oil in the hydraulic fluid first. I usually clean the air filters, and eventually I grease all the fittings. But I noticed that the excavator was a little bit low on hydraulic fluid, so we topped it off, and I also remembered that I had some diesel clean that I should have put in the diesel tank a few months back before it got real cold, so I might as well add that while I'm up here as well. Before I take off up the side of the mountain with my excavator to work on that trail, I try to move everything around as much as I can to get that hydraulic fluid warmed up, because still it's so cold that the excavator is not moving very fast. All right, so this is the start of the trail that goes up the side of the mountain, and I'm gonna try to just simply drive the excavator up the snow without even messing with the snow. And then if I can get up far enough, then I'm gonna put the blade down and push it back down and open it up so I can get the side-by-side up there. But I'm worried that it's gonna take a little bit more work than just driving up there. Well, if you're paying close attention, then you know that I've already got this trail opened up and that I actually already nearly rolled my skid steer off of this trail once I got it opened up with the excavator. But before I could take the skid steer up the side of the mountain, I first had to use the excavator to get the trail cut in and opened up. With the chains on the tracks, I'm still able to go places in the excavator that I couldn't go in the skid steer. The excavator is clearly capable of pushing very large amounts of snow, but the one thing the excavator blade cannot do is pivot left or right. It simply goes up and down. Now, there are some excavators that have what's called a four-way blade, but this machine does not. But I think about on a fairly regular basis what it would take for me to build a blade that could either be mounted on the front of the blade that I already have, or maybe even a snow blade that would mount where my bucket would mount on the boom, and I could actually use the excavator to push snow off the side of the trail, just like the skid steer already does. Well, it looks like my German Shorthair Ruby is done with her morning jog, and she now requires that I escort her down to the house because it's clearly too cold outside for her to sit on the side-by-side and wait for me. We're running up the new trail that I spent last winter cutting in, and to the left is the trail that goes all the way up to the cabin and the switchback, and then what will hopefully be the final part of the trail that I'll finish this winter. But this trail right here is the trail that I'm going to use to drop down to the water tanks. I have to have access to these water tanks any time of the year, and I have a trail down low, but it goes right through the center of the new deer pen. By the way, I have two more Norwesco 2,500 gallon tanks that I plan on installing later in the year, hopefully early spring. I'm basically going to add two more tanks to what we already have, which would give us right around 10,000 gallons of water, usable water. The bottom line is I have to finish pushing all the snow off. Tomorrow, I'm going to get over here and I'm going to go ham on these trees, and I'm not going to tell my wife until I'm done. We're a month and a half to 2 months away from early spring, where the trees are going to start budding out. And the truth is, from a firewood perspective, as well as just simply from a management perspective, I guess, it's all the sap is down in their roots right now. So it's actually a great time to cut the trees off. I'm just going to go through here and cut everything down. I'm not going to pick anything up. I'm just going to run the chainsaw all day tomorrow and see if I can get enough of this lower deer pin thinned out to where when the sun starts shining seriously and the snow goes away, that the grasses are going to be able to come up. That's the main thing that has to happen with this new deer pin. Then once the snow is gone, I'm going to come in here and finish bucking up all the wood into usable firewood, and what I can't use for firewood will burn. So cutting the snow in up here like this, I didn't think it was going to be quite this easy. And so I'm going to make a few more passes, and then I'm going to see if the Ranger can get up here. And like I said, if the Ranger can get up here, I'm going to get up here tomorrow with my chainsaw, a freshly sharpened chainsaw. And I'm going to try and let the sun through the trees. Whew, it is still cold as can be. Even as cold as it is, it's sure pretty up here. I've never had a bad day up here. Even when it's 11 degrees outside, but boy, you got to keep moving.
See it? Come on, let's go. Go get it. Get it, Willie. Get it. Good boy. Come on. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy.
We have to have more land for the deer if we're ever going to get serious about the deer farming thing. As much as my beautiful wife Cedar doesn't like it when I run the chainsaw around these maple trees, it has to be done. This thing is just a turd. It's kind of hard to see at this exact moment, but I'm certain at some point down the road, the evidence will show that these trees and the land greatly benefited from removing the unhealthy trees. Now this cedar tree right here has been here for at least 50 years, and I'd like it to continue to stay here, but the branches have to be pruned up high enough to where there's no conflict between the fence that's going to go right by here and the cedar tree. And hopefully by doing this, the tree also lives a longer, more healthy life.
So after kind of watching what just happened on the West Coast with all the wildfires, I don't want nothing to do with anything like that. And the only way, the only way that that I can get around that, actually I don't know that I can get around that, but at a minimum, I've got to thin the dead and dying trees. I've got to get rid of the trees that are going to provide a fuel source. I need to have all the dead and dying and leaning trees that could potentially fall on a fence. That's the other thing I have to think about. If this fence that's going to run up for the new deer fence, if a big enough tree ever fell on that fence and crushed it enough to where a deer could get out, not only would I lose the value of that deer, depending on what it is, it could be, $300, $400, $500, or it could be, $2,500 for one of my bucks. But if they get out, there's basically, I'm supposed to report it, and they basically hunt it down and they shoot them. The state of Idaho hunts it down and they basically shoot them. They don't try to catch them. They just try to get them out of the wild to make sure that they don't get into the wild. And it just so happens that I live up against the wild, and so anywhere along this this path, a tree that's leaning on either side of the trail is going to have to be removed.
Well, it's another cold, beautiful morning here at Red Poppy Ranch, and I am ready to run my chainsaw. In the middle of constantly trying to identify the healthiest and the unhealthy trees that need to be cut down, once the trees hit the ground, I also need to buck them up in small enough pieces where I can get over the top of them, and when the time comes, stack them up into brush piles so they can be burned before it gets too warm in the summertime, and it'll be too dangerous to burn at that point.
So this is a really good example of why the trees need to be thinned so bad. It's the sun is coming through the trees, but it's probably 22 degrees right here. It's been so cold I've had to go down to the house like 3 times and get my fingers thawed out again. But in the shade it's, I don't know, 22, 23 degrees. But once the sun hits the ground, even when it's this cold, it's so much easier to work if the sun is shining down on you. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens as the sun turns the corner here and just how much sun we're going to start to get here on the ground.
You know, this is the only piece of property that Cedar and I have ever owned where I have to have a seriously long-term outlook, which means I can't ever sell it. I'm certain that someday all of my effort that I've put into thinning these trees and getting rid of the dead and dying and unhealthy trees is going to pay off in spades, but it's not going to be today or tomorrow. You can see how much of a nasty, tangled mess this turns into once the trees are on the ground. Real quickly, I just wanted to say thank you to you guys for taking time to see what we're up to around here at Red Poppy Ranch. Soon enough, the snow is going to be gone and we're going to get back to some of the fun projects that we've got planned this summer. But in the meantime, we're going to keep working on the new deer pen, getting it ready to be fenced and used by the deer this summer. If you think that you want to come and work alongside me once the snow melts, send an email to redpoppyranchprojects@gmail.com and I'll put you on a list. At some point, early summer before it gets too hot, we'll have a Saturday get together and maybe some of you guys can help us get this deer pen ready for the deer. Thanks again. We'll see you guys soon. Turn, what are you turning? Turn the other way. There you go, hard right. Keep it slow and easy. Keep going, turn more. Okay, right there. You're gonna drive forward to the right now. We're backing it in next to the Liberty, so you're just gonna go right, okay, come on. Easy, keep going forward. Okay, turn to the right, turn the wheel to the right. I'm sorry, other way, other right. Put a reverse, put on the brake, put in reverse. Slowly, easy. This is your mom's favorite car. Her only car. Well, we got the Liberty. Slow and easy. Turn to the left. Nope, other way. Right there. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Easy, 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 a little more.
Stop, put it in park, roll the window up. Bro, you can get a job as a valet driver now.
What's that mean?
You park cars, that's all you do is park cars.
Yeah.